Hello and welcome to the Action Essentials. In this video we are going to dive into the little machines that make sure that clicks on our pages change things in our data. So let's have a look at how that works and what we already have in our application. When in our application's dashboard we have the builder bar. And we've already covered two of the items within the builder bar. We've covered the pages, we've made some functionalities, and we have covered the data model. We have made our data structure. But whenever we open our application and let's say we update our project and we press that send button, something happens. And that something is an action is triggered and does something for us. So let's open up the action overview. Going to open up the action overview, and here you see that some have been created for us already. Well, let's open up one of them. This is the project create form action. What this does is it creates a project for us based on the create form. So let me just open up what that looked like in our front end. So let's go to our front end, open up the project create page. So whenever we filled in our information in here and we press send, that information is sent to this little machine. This machine has the start, the input, because we are putting all this data in. And all that input data is used in this step to create a new project for us. So again, what happens is from our front end, we provide some information that could be some form data, it could be some hidden data, it could be some user data, depending on how we design the action. And then we put that in this step where the flat text that we put in, a title, a description, dates, user, and an image, is connected to that structure that we have set up within our project model. The title, description, start date, end date, user, and image. And then it is created, and that leaves us with an output variable of a new project. And this is how you can also create different kinds of actions. You can use all the steps that are available natively or via our block store to build these little business logic functions in your application. So I would like to do this for the project management application because there's definitely things that we can make easier by implementing this logic ourselves. And the idea that I had is within our project overview, we have a lot of tiles. But what if I would like to be able to update my items on the page immediately? We can dive into the detail page and press the update overview, but maybe I already know, yes, I see this project in my overview page. I want to start it. Let's go. I would like a button that allows me to start my project. So let's start off with one update action. So first things first, I'm clicking on the page and this has a wrapper around it. So we're going to unlock the widget by pressing the unlock toggle in the bottom left. And now I can open up the components, and in the layout components, I am going to grab a box component and I'm going to drag that underneath my project description. You can also put it, well, I think underneath the project description is actually a very nice place to put it. This is where I want some small buttons that will allow me to do certain things to that specific project. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to my buttons, and as you can see, we have action buttons. Well, this triggers an action for us, and that's exactly what we are going to be diving into. So I'm going to be dragging this action button in there, and I'm first going to make sure that I'm going to make it a little appealing to click. So we want this to be a starting button or a starting button for our projects. I'm going to remove the button text and I'm going to select an icon instead. And I'm going to use the arrow forward. And I am going to make sure that I'm picking the reverse style again. Let's see, outline, yes, look at that. And it doesn't say start, but what we can do is we can add a tooltip. So I'm going to open up the tooltip section. And if I press toggle tooltip, you can see exactly what that would look like if someone would be hovering over the button. So tooltip content would be start project. There we go. I would like this. Yeah, I do like that it's hovering down below. I am going to do a dark background and white text. Does this look? Yeah, this looks quite all right. Or we can do a primary background. And no, I do want it to be a dark black background. This is also just figuring it out. You're just having a look at the tooltip, seeing what works, what doesn't work. So right now I'm going for a dark background on tooltip and white text. So now I can toggle the tooltip visibility off again. So next time someone hovers over the tooltip, it will appear. So, okay, I'm leaving the toggle tooltip on. So the tooltip will be there and you can, well, we're gonna look at it in the live view. So next, because now we really need to dive into that action. As I mentioned, with a form action, with other actions, you need to give it some input. The action needs to know, okay, what can I do with the information you're giving me? But the information we are giving is something we need to determine first. So everything within a project tile has project information. So we can also pass value to action. So if we look at the option of the button, we can press select a property and we can pass that a unique ID to our action. So pass value to action, project ID. And then the next thing we can do is we can open up the action by pressing the pencil button. So let's do that. And here we have an empty action canvas. So first things first, we need to determine that input that we have just given to our action. So let's dive into setting up that input. The input variable that we need to make sure to connect is the ID. So what we have passed is the ID, which is a number. And we're going to retrieve it as a record because BettyBlocks is smart enough to see like, hey, you are passing me number 3 from a certain model. We're going to determine that model. It's the project model. You're passing me number 3 from the model. I am going to retrieve the entire project for you to work with. So we have ID. We can write that down in small case. So ID from the project model. And there we go. We now have the record to work with. And what we would like to do when we start the project is we want to update the project, its status from to do to in progress. And I've already given the keyword for the step we would like to use, update. So that's also something we're going to do. We're going to grab the update record and we can simply drag it into the flow. So we start, we do something, and we finish. And we're going to update the record in the meantime. I'm going to grab the variable. I'm going to click ID and then press select. And we're going to look at some value mapping. So again, what this is you have a value and you assign that to a property. The thing that we want to do here is we have a status and we want to assign a new status to project. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to assign the in progress status to our project as updated project. And I'm going to press save. So right now what happens is we retrieve the project from our front end. We make sure that within our action it is readable and then we update it. Well, let's have a look at if it works. So let's make sure I'm going back into my page. I'm going to press the compile button. And then here we go. We now have the button underneath. If I hover over the button, it says start project. Well, this project is already started. So let's make sure that we check out the second one. So press click and refresh. And then we see that nothing has changed yet. Well, and that's a good thing because there is something we need to look into when we actually work with these actions. So if your page is locked again, make sure to unlock it. And then we open up the action button. There is also action permissions. By default, you need the correct role, or you need to set the permissions for a button to be triggered. And we're going to dive a little further with this in the next chapter, the governance chapter. But when you are logged in, you are automatically an admin in your application. So let's open up the settings for the action that we've just made. And let's do some small tweaks. First off, we're going to rename the action from action button to start project action. Description: runs when the action button is clicked and starts a project on the project detail, on the project overview page. There we go. Press save. And we're going to check the permissions, and we need to make sure that the authentication profile is equal to our authentication profile on the page. And of course that we as an admin are allowed to perform this action. So if we press save and now go back to the page, so I'm waiting till the actions have successfully been compiled, go back, I'm going to press play again. And then the moment that our page is updated, I can now press this button again and you can see it load. So let's refresh the page and it says in progress. So we now know that we can successfully update this page. So I am going to quickly make a second button, because I want a button for start project and I want a button for finish the project. So I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to, well, go through it a little faster this time. So opening up, going to my components, grabbing the action button that I'm going to drag next to the other button. Here I'm going to change the style to the outline style. I'm going to set a little bit of outer space so that they aren't hugging each other. Removing the button text, and we're going to select the icon. Well, what fits with finishing? Do I have a flag? Let's see. Yes, flag. This seems fitting for a finish project. Then I'm going to the tooltip, toggle tooltip, turn on, finish project. There we go. With the same background, so a dark background with white text. Currently they are showing at the same time, but normally you can only hover one button at a time, so these won't be overlapping. And now I'm going to give the ID to my action again, opening up the action, making sure that the ID is available. So I'm going to add the ID as record from the project model, press save, and now I'm going to add the update record step, open that, make sure that we update the ID, press select, and we're going to update the status. But this time we are going to update the status to finished, because this action is meant to finish the project as finished project. There we go. Press save. And well, now we know immediately that we want to change the settings too. So let's open up the settings. Let's make sure that we also give it a proper name. Finish project action runs when the action button is clicked, finishes a project on the project overview page. Make sure that you do look into those descriptions from time to time, because it is nice to leave a good and explanation for your colleagues when they need to dive into your actions. Permissions, set the authentication profile to Betty, allow admins to click the button, and let's wait till we have a green check mark in the top left. We do. Go back, open up the page, and a second, but first log in. Every now and then, as I mentioned before, we do need to make sure that we log in, and a second button has been added. So let's make sure that we test that, refresh the page, and the project is finished. So now we know how to create the update action. In the next video, we are going to make sure that we also know how to delete, because we now know how to create, we know how to read, we know how to, well, look at our data, we know how to update. The last thing we are going to be adding in the next video is the delete button. And after that, we're going to be diving into some other action stuff. So see you there.